Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome in to the Steven Singer Studios. Marc Farzetta with you. Welcome into the Farzy Show. Riley Cote will be joining us, former Flyer, and right now a co-host of Nasty Knuckles. He'll be joining us, talking about that great Flyers win last night. Great to see him get back on the winning track. And I'm going to ask Riley when he joins us about 6:20 today about whether or not his ears were ringing over the last couple of weeks, because he joined us about 2 or 3 weeks ago and he simply told us that the Bruins are in the Flyers' heads. Simple as that. The Bruins are in the Flyers' heads, and they are. So it was good to see them not play the Bruins last night, and it was especially good to see them win. And on top of that, it was great to see Claude Giroux back in the Flyers lineup. 14 days away. Hadn't played a game in over those 2 weeks, obviously. COVID-19, and he goes out there and gets you 3 assists in the win over the New York Rangers. They still have, 4 players out due to COVID-19 protocol, and Claude Giroux comes storming back. Said he didn't feel great necessarily in this particular game, but you wouldn't know it from the way that he played. It was great seeing the captain back out there. And what I thought was a show-stealing type of performance, only to really be outdone by a guy like Kevin Hayes with the amazing goal that he had in this game against the Rangers, where he went top shelf off the crossbar, as a matter of fact, and just took care of business like that. It was a wild game to follow. It was a wild game to watch. Flyers certainly took advantage of their opportunities. Brian Elliott was just good enough in net. But the thing that I focused on throughout that game was just how Claude Giroux was going to look. There was something else to focus on. Nolan Patrick moving to more of a wing position, obviously, with the Flyers yesterday. But I was watching the captain. For every minute he was on the ice, I was watching Flyers captain Claude Giroux. And you wouldn't know that he had just missed essentially 2 weeks. You wouldn't know by the way he played last night, because he played last night like a captain should. He played last night the way Claude Giroux should play, setting up his teammates, keeping his eyes really keeping his head on a swivel wherever he was on the ice, making sure he was setting up his guys. Even had a great forced a turnover in the neutral zone, had a great one-on-one opportunity, couldn't capitalize on it in that case, but still had scoring chance after scoring chance, and that's ultimately what you want to see from Giroux in this game, especially against the Rangers, especially in a time that you needed to get a win like this after an embarrassing loss to the Bruins. Now, again, I know that they were missing a lot of guys, and of course, Giroux was one of them. But the way that they played that game at Lake Tahoe, especially at the end, was awful, regardless of who they were missing. Still pros out there on the ice, should get a job done better than allowing 7 goals to the Boston Bruins. So you see them go out last night against the Rangers, and they stepped up. They got a win when they needed to get a win. And I didn't even realize this, just because I've been so distracted with everything the Flyers have had to put up with COVID. 9-1-1 against teams not named the Boston Bruins. So yeah, when we have Riley Cote on, I'll ask him if his ears have been ringing, because when he said they own free, they live rent free in the Flyers' heads, the Bruins do. He certainly was hitting the nail on the head in that regard. So we'll talk to Riley Cote coming up in just a couple of minutes here on the Farzy Show. We also have a Farzy in the field for you. We're going to ask the question that I've been asking a lot of our football guests throughout this entire process. And the question I've been asking our football guests is this. I've been saying, do the Eagles look at Jalen Hurts right now as Mr. Right, or do they look at him as Mr. Right now? Meaning, obviously, are they looking at him to be the franchise quarterback going forward, or do they just think that Jalen Hurts will be a guy to be a guy to be a bridge to the next franchise quarterback? Because I've heard the argument start up now about how the Eagles haven't jumped out to say Jalen Hurts is our guy. And when Nick Sirianni was given his press conference, he said there was going to be a quarterback competition. Well, I don't necessarily think that a head coach is going to come out and name a starter in his first press conference, even with Carson Wentz being here. I thought he handled that properly, but they didn't name a starter, and that's fine. That's to be expected. But at what point since the Carson Wentz trade are they going to come out and tell you that Jalen Hurts is the guy? Like, I'm not expecting some Howie Roseman press conference or Jeffrey Lurie press conference or Nick Sirianni press conference, certainly, to come out and tell me who the starting quarterback is going to be in February. Would I like it? Sure, I'd like it. But that might actually hurt a future trades they want to make down the line, especially if they're going to make a trade or trade up in the draft for a quarterback. So I know the argument has started up about, well, they haven't really given Jalen Hurts a full vote of confidence. Well, no, they haven't. But when are they supposed to do that? Were they supposed to do that while Carson Wentz was on the team and totally ruin any trade value that he might actually have as a return? No, of course not. So for the people that are starting up that argument that I've heard and seen it on social media as well, I don't know when the Eagles are supposed to come out and make that declaration. But all I know is this: until they actually reconvene as a team, until a draft actually happens, we don't know what card they're going to play. And I wouldn't put it past the Eagles, as I've been saying this entire time, to just have Jalen Hurts right now in the back pocket and actually do their due diligence. Have reports have come out on other guys in this draft that they see fit to play the quarterback position for them, whether that be as legit competition to be a starting quarterback to fight for the job against Jalen Hurts, or whether that be to be a serviceable backup the way Jalen Hurts was supposed to be last year to Carson Wentz. We're not going to know the answers to these questions for quite some time, so this will be up for debate across the Delaware Valley and, of course, all of Eagle Nation. But like I said, I wouldn't put it past the Eagles to be thinking quarterback still, even at number 6. I don't think they do it right now, but I think that they are absolutely going to do their due diligence, more so than just saying they're going to do it for the simple fact that they're going to do it. I mean, they had scouts at Trevor Lawrence's workout. So I think they're actually going to watch this entire process play out, go through all the pro days, and if they like a guy there at 6, they're going to take him. Now, does that make the Eagles look ridiculous, especially after taking a quarterback at number 53 overall when you had your supposed franchise guy? Of course it makes them look ridiculous, but they shouldn't care as to whether or not it makes them look like total smacked asses, so to speak. They should just do what's best for the franchise. And if I'm Howie Roseman, as I've said for the last couple of weeks, if I'm Howie Roseman, I almost look at the next quarterback as the guy that could save my job in the long run. Because if I finally draft that franchise guy, because I missed on Carson Wentz, obviously, we had one great year where we were able to go to the Super Bowl, and they probably don't do that without the way Carson Wentz played throughout the rest of that regular season until Nick Foles came over after his injury and played the rest of the year. But if the Eagles, if Howie Roseman couldn't draft on that guy and gets an opportunity to do it again, and that guy comes out, whoever it might be, and he comes out and he actually plays well in the first couple of games of that season, or plays good enough to at least give you hope for what could happen down the line, how is he going to keep his job? Because ultimately the only thing that really matters is hitting on that quarterback or not. Now he's got to get offensive line help. He's got to get help on the Eagles secondary. This team needs a lot of help. We all know that. And that's why when we talk about the Eagles, we're mostly talking about them in a form of a rebuild, or at least a retooling, whatever you want to call it. But right now, Howie's got to concentrate on that spot. And if Jalen Hurts isn't that guy, they got to make sure they bring in somebody that will be that guy to carry him forward. But if they avoid that spot, which I still think they ultimately do at this point, I'm just entertaining the curiosity of the reports that are out there right now about them doing more than just their due diligence. I think Howie wants to bring in a guy that will be that franchise guy, but I think he also realizes how much work this team really needs. And if I'm Howie Roseman and I know my weakest link to my job is my ability to draft, I need every draft pick I can get. And if that means that they're going to trade back in the draft, or they have the opportunity to trade back from more picks, I think Howie Roseman absolutely does that, simply because he realizes he needs as many opportunities as possible to hit on draft picks in this particular draft. And at the same time, the cap hell. Save as much money as they possibly can and fill spots with guys that they're going to have to release with big contracts, whether that's the elder statesmen like Zach Ertz that we've talked about before, whether that's guys like Brandon Graham like we've talked about before. If they can draft defensive ends, if they can go out there and they can draft somebody else in the secondary, and then go out there and draft another tight end, for instance, and pay them a lot less money and save some money for this upcoming season, I think Howie Roseman's going to go after that. And also, it's easier to sell somebody like Jeffrey Lurie on a rebuild situation than it is for, hey, we're going to win now and then have that fail. So I think ultimately, barring Jalen Hurts being some amazing quarterback that we just haven't seen quite yet, and I'm not saying he can't do it, I'm just saying, can he step in with all the same problems the Eagles had last year at the quarterback position, and not even just at the quarterback position, but can he step in with all the problems on the offensive line, all the problems, health issues at receiver? Can he step in without Zach Ertz and just Dallas Goedert as his tight end, and take this team to a higher level than what he was able to do last year when he took over at the end of the season, or even that Carson Wentz had throughout the start of that season? And my answer for that right now is no. I don't think he can do that. Based on what I saw last year, if I had to guess right now, an educated guess, I'd say no, he can't do that. But maybe with a full off season, maybe being able to work out with his guys in Texas, going through the posting videos of him working out and throwing passes and all that stuff, and working on his drop back footwork and his arm slot, all that stuff, then yeah, maybe he can do that. Maybe that all that hard work will pay off, and I certainly hope that it does, because I mean, where the hell is there? Is there any fun rooting in a rebuild? No, of course not. There's fun in rooting to win now. And speaking of winning now, this brings me to the Phillies. I'm getting, as I've said before, I get giddy about spring training, and I love seeing the guys down there in Clearwater. And by the way, shout out to Bryce Harper for that awesome shirt. That was good stuff. But I love the idea of Bryce Harper saying that the organization went out there and they made moves that they needed to make, as if to signify that they're in win now mode. This is with the GM, Dave Dombrowski, taking over, that has a lot of mistakes to correct, and he made sure that he got JT Realmuto back here. He made sure he got Didi Gregorius back here. He got a good bullpen arm in here in Archie Bradley, and now he could very well be after yet another arm in this rotation, possibly somebody that could be number 3 in Jake Odorizzi. And if they're able to bring him in to be your third starter and move Zach Eflin to your fourth starter, and then have Spencer Howard, the young arm from last year that we got a little glimpse of throughout the season, and have him as your fifth starter, then Vinny Velasquez, guess what, is no longer your fifth starter. So a lot of people can relax and enjoy that. But here's what I like. The new president of baseball ops, Dave Dombrowski, is pretty aggressive. And I really like seeing that when it comes to somebody that realizes mistakes have been made in the past, and he's going to do whatever he can to make sure he corrects those mistakes. And going out there and getting help in the bullpen, like Bradley, for instance, possibly going out there and getting Odorizzi, by the way, in their rotation, shows you that they're trying to address one of the bigger issues from last year, which obviously was pitching. It was bullpen, it was starting rotation. That was one of the bigger issues. And then you have to rely on this. And this is something I liked from Joe Girardi yesterday. Loved hearing this. It's no longer an excuse of being young. We talked about this a lot with the Sixers. There's no longer the excuse of being young. It's time to step into that mature role. And we called for that for Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons last year. We're really getting that this year, better than any year. Now the Phillies find themselves in that same type of situation. Rhys Hoskins ain't young anymore. All right. Bryce Harper certainly isn't young anymore. The one guy you can look at and say, all right, yeah, he's fine, he's young, is Alec Boehm, who's going to be their third baseman. But even Scott Kingery, not young anymore. Last year, missed time with COVID, came into camp all swolled up and all that, as we remember. Rhys Hoskins joked that maybe Kingery was a little too swole, as our friend Pat Gallen pointed out on CBS 3. Maybe he was a little too swole for his own liking, according to Rhys Hoskins. But when you see him come out this year, you want that experience of the years prior to really start to pay off for some of these guys that we used to look at as really young guys. These are guys that are now supposed to be coming into the prime of their career. If Adam Hazley ends up winning the center field position, you can look at him and say, all right, fine, a younger guy. I get it. But when it comes to the guys that are going to be in the heart of that order, Rhys Hoskins most notably, that's the guy that has to step up and say, to heck with inexperience, to heck with learning process, to heck with waiting till I find my stride and my groove and all that. Those guys have to come out literally swinging and being aggressive, because when we saw Rhys Hoskins being a much more aggressive hitter at the plate and not wait till he got 2 strikes on him, which, yeah, sometimes when you want to work a count, go for it, Rhys. But to get that power bat again in the 4 hole, get that power bat again, maybe at the 3 spot again in the lineup, that's what you ultimately want from Rhys Hoskins, because you can't have that type of passive hitter in this lineup. You got to be able to rely on almost everybody in here to drive in runs. And with Didi Gregorius, with Rhys Hoskins, with Bryce Harper, with JT Realmuto, with Alec Boehm, you should be able to rely on those guys to drive in runs. And it can't just be one guy all season long. Didi Gregorius, great year last year. Bryce Harper, great year last year. JT Realmuto, good year last year. But all these guys have to make sure that they are steady at the plate and being aggressive, because that young stuff, as Joe Girardi said in his press conference yesterday, that's out the window. We're now talking about these guys going into the prime of their career, and watching them just get warmed up and take BP in batting practice and all that stuff in Clearwater, Florida it's been soothing to the soul. You know what? Having beautiful weather yesterday throughout our area was, made you feel like you were having a little bit of spring training for yourself. I was walking around, did this week's Farzy in the Field in Rittenhouse Square, and I'll just say this: it was lovely. It was lovely. A lot of people out just enjoying their day. That's for sure. The Sixers do tip off tonight. They are back in action. Look forward to watching them get back after it tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. Lots of Sixers news, by the way, that we'll get into a little bit more later in the show. Keith Pompey had a very interesting article in Inquirer.com. You can check it out, regarding the possibility of bringing Kyle Lowry back to Philadelphia, back to his hometown of Philadelphia, Cardinal Doherty's own, Villanova's own, Kyle Lowry possibly coming back to Philadelphia, this time to play for the 76ers. 34 years old, and I know a lot of people, myself included, would like to see Kyle Lowry here in Philly. But what Keith Pompey highlights is that there's two other teams that might be able to give up a little bit more than the Sixers in order to get Lowry to their squad. One is the Miami Heat. Okay, I could see that. The other that I think presents a little bit more of a problem in terms of the Sixers being able to acquire him is the LA Clippers. Because if I'm Lowry, I either want to go home or I want to go to Los Angeles and play with Kawhi and play with Paul George. And if I can do that, yeah, things are going to look pretty good. Now, I could also play with Joel Embiid, and I can also play with Ben Simmons. That's cool. But if Kyle Lowry is going to come here and be a shot-creating point guard, I mean, that might be a good 2 to Ben Simmons 1, or move Ben to 4, and then we move the lineup around more and more. But if I'm a guy like Kyle Lowry and I've already won a championship, maybe I want to go lean on guys like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, significantly younger than me, and can also carry the team more than I have to worry about. But also, on the same hand, I've already won a championship with Kawhi Leonard. We had some success together, obviously. Maybe I want to try to tap into that talent pool one more time and see what that can bear, especially in the expiring year of his the last year of his contract. That's going to be something he's going to be looking at. So I think it's going to come down to the Sixers and the Clippers. According to Keith Pompey, in his story, he highlights sources that say Lowry does want to come to Philadelphia. And if that's the case, I see no reason the Sixers wouldn't be able to get a deal done to bring Lowry in. And one thing I will say, when you talk about picks, the Sixers are a really good basketball team. Number one in the Eastern Conference, still a half game up on the Brooklyn Nets, which is great. But those first-round picks aren't going to mean what they used to mean to the Sixers. So I know a lot of people, especially with the Ben Simmons, James Harden trade talk and all that, I know a lot of people looked at those numbers, and those first-round picks, and they said, you know what? I don't want to part with those, because what about our own future? What about still drafting and replenishing this team with young talent? Well, yeah, that's fine. And I understand you can have guys taken, 20, 24, 25, 26, 27 that can still have impact on your squad. I get that. But are you going to consistently hit on those guys that late in the draft time and time again? The answer to that is probably not. So if you're going to go, by the way, you have a young team already. So when it comes to replenishing, you can afford to take some time off when it comes to that. And you can rely on the talent you have now, continuing to mature, continuing to improve, and continuing to get better. And if that means Kyle Lowry can come here and help you, again, win now, I'm all for it. Sixers Mavs tonight, tipping off 7 o'clock in South Philadelphia. Before we bring in our good friend Riley Cote, I wanted to play this for you. Claude Giroux last night obviously played in his first game in 2.5 weeks, really. And Alain Vigneault talked about that after the game. And Alain Vigneault was just showering his captain with compliments. We're going to listen to, real quick, Alain Vigneault on Claude Giroux, and then Claude Giroux on Claude Giroux. Here's Alain Vigneault on what his captain had to do last night.
I was surprised would be an understatement. Well, I didn't really know what to expect, but you could tell early on that he had his game tonight. Geez, he had a lot of jump. He had quickness to his game. He was making plays. So I used him, and he didn't seem to be, fatigued at all. So He was a big part of us, getting this win. I was able to use him 5-on-5. I was able to use him, obviously, on the power play, and threw him out there a couple of times on the PK. And this was one of his better games all year.
What I honestly can't believe is how often he used him. Like, even when he said even on the power play or on the penalty kill, I couldn't believe that he used him in that spot, but he did, and he played well. Now, that was a coach just lavishing praise on his captain. What about the captain on the captain?
Didn't feel that great, but when you come back from a long time like that, you're trying to keep your shift short, keep it simple. You don't want to get caught out there. So yeah, it turned out good tonight.
Like, first off, modest, yeah, just a little bit. But what would you expect? He's a hockey player. Didn't feel that great, yet he still came up with 3 assists and was all over the ice and played in every facet of the game. So that's what I guess the captain would say about himself. Meanwhile, the head coach is like, yeah, this is what really happened. He was awesome, basically. So great to see that. Riley Cote will join us in just 1 second, but I do want to tell you about my good friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Fellas, ladies, you're looking to get engaged? Looking to pop the question? There's go no other place. Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, or IHateStevenSinger.com. Right now, go to IHateStevenSinger.com. You can check out the appointment scheduler. Make yourself an appointment, as they're adhering to all CDC guidelines. They want to make sure their store isn't crowded for you. So when you make your appointment, a convenient time for yourself, you go out there to Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut. They open the door for you. You walk in. They have the plexiglass all set up. A real jewelry expert walks you through everything to make you feel relaxed. They also make you feel relaxed, not just because you're dealing with a professional, someone who's a real jewelry expert, but also because when you go in there, there's no haggling. You don't have to worry about your negotiating skills. They have everything set at the perfect prices. Steven likes to say, if Tiffany's and Walmart, if they had a baby, that would be Steven Singer Jewelers. So make sure you get taken care of properly every single time with the perfect price at IHateStevenSinger.com or the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Steven Singer Jewelers. Go see my guy who loves saying he's in the love business, because he is. IHateStevenSinger.com. Without further ado, let's jump on the Zatos Investments guest line and see if we can't invite into the studio our good friend Riley Cote. Riley, welcome in, Nasty Knuckles himself. How are you, buddy?
What's going on? I'm good.
Good. Well, let me ask you this. Have your ears been ringing over the last couple of weeks at all? Because I've been mentioning your name quite a bit, especially in reference to how you told us that the Boston Bruins simply just are in the Flyers' heads right now, and that has certainly proven true.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, I wish I was wrong on that. And I mean, the last Boston game was hard to really make an honest assessment because of missing that many guys via COVID. But nonetheless, I mean, Pasternak once again shoves it up the Flyers' ass, and but that's 5 games now, so it's going to be a tough one to crack here moving forward. But hopefully, they're able to.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to that again later, but I just had to highlight that because I've been referencing that. They're a totally different team when they play the Bruins, and no better example than last night. They just get Claude Giroux back in the lineup. Kevin Hayes had an incredible goal,
Yep.
and they just did what they needed to do against the New York Rangers. When you watch that game play out, I mean, let's start with the captain. We just let you hear from him. We let you hear the coach talk about him as well. It seemed like there was no lag. It seemed like there was no it seemed like he had just been there practicing with the team all along. It seemed like no time was missed. Did you see the same thing?
Yeah, G's an elite player. It's like, he missed 2.5 weeks, but you know what you're going to get out of G. And I know he said he didn't feel good, but I've been there before, not at that level that he's playing at, but where you don't necessarily feel great, but somehow you're able to contribute and create plays and kind of be in the moment. And that's what Alain Vigneault is seeing, and he's seeing him how he's skating and how he's making plays. So he's going to play him based on what he's seeing, not how G's feeling, because he don't know that. He's just going off what he's feeling, what he's seeing. So, when you miss a guy like G, obviously you feel it as a team. You can't replace guys like that. They're hard to fill that void. So having him back in the lineup was huge. And, obviously he brought his A game. I mean, he doesn't think so, but 3 apples is not too bad.
Yeah, I do like when players in any sport, really, whenever they say, I didn't feel that great. And it's like they had like a 30-point night in basketball, or they threw 4 touchdown passes, but it didn't feel great.
Right.
Well, it looked great. I'll tell you that much.
That's it. Yeah. And there's days that you feel great and you don't execute, you don't perform properly. So it's just one of those things, you take it as a win for sure. The guys needed to get back on the right track and they did, a couple, say bad games. I mean, they should have won the Ranger game before the Boston game there, but back on the right track. You needed that win and get some healthy bodies back in the lineup and move forward.
It's wild. Speaking with Riley Cote, Nasty Knuckles podcast, obviously, and former Philadelphia Flyer. Riley, when you were coaching these guys, I don't know what your approach. Have you thought about it all, especially in a year like this? Hey, we don't know who we're going to have and when we're going to have them and for how long we won't have them. Like, what would be? I know players got to handle a lot of the mental stuff on their own, but as a coach, how would you try to motivate these players and make sure that their minds are in the right place, especially in a time like this where still four Flyers are not playing due to COVID protocol?
Yeah, no, it's interesting dynamic for sure. I don't think any coach has ever seen something quite like this. In the minors, a lot of these coaches start in the minors and you expect to lose guys, and it's just kind of like the nature of the beast, right? I mean, it's just something you deal with, but this many guys at once is a little different story. So I think it's just nothing more than staying focused, staying with the game plan and just kind of focusing on yourself. There's nothing much else to say. I mean, we can't worry about G being out of the lineup and these guys being out of the lineup. It's just like it is what it is. We got to go. We got to suit up and we got to play a game. So I think it's just kind of focusing back inwards and just like focus on your performance. Everyone's got to do a little bit better job, and collectively, hopefully we can pull some wins together. So I'm not really sure what the exact strategy would be other than exactly that. It just we got to find a way to win here, guys.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I liked about last night's performance. You get one guy back, and it seemed like it really energized the rest of the team. Now, one of the goals I have to talk about is the Kevin Hayes goal. That to me, that was just sick. Like, I even tweeted out, it was gorgeous. All right, I don't use that word a lot, but it was a gorgeous goal last night, and he was able to go top shelf right off the crossbar, I believe, to get that goal last night. That was like almost an impossible angle.
Yeah, well, yeah, the pass itself, and then how he pulled the pass out of two sticks, and somehow still had the puck, and then the fact that he was able to put it over his shoulder was something special for sure. So, yeah, again, the high level passing, and then just obviously, I mean, you hear the saying, you can't make a good player a bad pass. Like, that's a perfect example of like being able to pull a pass out of a high traffic area and make a play. So,
Riley, watching the season play out to this point, is there someone in particular that has really jumped out to you? Somebody maybe you're keeping your eye on throughout, maybe just ramping up to the season. You wanted to see something more from this player. Is there a guy that's really caught your eye this year?
I'd say Joel Farabee. I mean, I know he's on everyone's radar, but somewhat similar to G's pass there yesterday. Farabee had one as well. I mean, it was like, a super nice pass, a highly executed play, and this guy is going to be good for a long time. I mean, he's got another year, and he just keeps proving everyone that he belongs. So, I mean, he's been fun to watch, honestly. I was kind of expecting TK and maybe a couple other guys to kind of rise up a little bit more, but this guy seems to me, for me personally, to be rising up.
I know that it got the highest ratings for NBC Sports Network for the outdoor game in Lake Tahoe. And I know that they were missing a lot of guys with COVID and all that. But the one guy I want to talk about in particular out there is Carter Hart. And I don't know if the cold got to him or whatever, but just in that game, and maybe it was the fact that they were missing so many guys. But Carter Hart in particular in net, I just thought looked a little shaky in that particular game. The Bruins, as you said, they own the free real estate, rent-free in their heads and all that. But did Carter Hart look okay to you in that game?
No, I agree with you. He looked a little shaky at times. That being said, I think we talked about this last time we're on, is just like, yeah, he could be better. But I think, the team in front of him also, especially in that second period, we just don't generate enough offense. They're always kind of coming back, and when the goalie's weak, he gets exposed. But I think if you play away from the net more often, you get more shots. They did a good job yesterday of generating more offense. But the last two games, again, they were in the 19 shots and the 22 shot range. It's just not enough. And then when you're not generating enough offense, you're playing more on your end, so you're absorbing more. And then if your goalie's off a little bit, it gets exposed. But I still really truly believe in Carter Hart. I think he's kind of had a few bumps in the road early. I think it's better to get him out of the way early. And he's such a mature-minded human that I think this will be a water under the bridge. He's going to learn from it and get back to his A game.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. Riley Cote joining us here on the Zatos Investments guest line. That's the thing, and it's funny whenever we have young talent, and this happens all the time with like Ben Simmons. We have young talent, and the minute you say something negative, it means you're against it. And that's not the case at all. I think Carter Hart's going to be the franchise goalie going forward here and all that. But to have these bumps in the road, as you put it, I think is a good thing to have them now at this point in his career. Plenty of season left to be able to bounce back from it. And I just want to make sure I'm saying this right, that he has that mental approach to the game where it's very rare that he has kind of shakier performances back to back.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I only expect him to kind of watch some film and reflect on it and learn from it. That's just the way he's kind of built. He's very, very, very focused. And the good thing is that the Flyers have solid 1-2. The Elliott comes in and they get a win. That being said, I think Carter Hart moving forward, I mean, to me is the number one. He just needs to kind of get back get back to his A game and just kind of, whatever it is, that's missing there. I know they missed 5 or 6 guys there. That certainly doesn't help anybody, but I think moving forward, he'll be fine. He's so coachable. He's such a good student of the game. So I would expect him to bounce back.
Last thing I want to ask you about just Lake Tahoe is just the setting in general. Did you ever play an outdoor game?
I warmed up an outdoor game in Boston. I didn't play it, but yeah, I know the setting was certainly a little bit different than Fenway Park, but it was nice to see for sure. That's it just brings back memories. Not that I grew up in the mountains or anything like that, but just being outside and just having that vibe is something you really can't replace.
Yeah. What do players think about the outdoor games? Do they get a chance to really enjoy them? Do they think it's just a spectacle for the league? What's the overall opinion?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of a distraction. There's so many little like intricate things you got to do, and you know what I mean. It's all for the media and the show, so it's just a little bit taking you out of your element a little bit. But that being said, again, it's kind of reconnecting with your roots for most of these guys. There's something special about playing outdoors. They make it a big deal. I guess it is a big deal in the hockey world, but I think there's a little bit too much, fluff around it, if you will.
No, I agree.
Experience for sure. I mean, even for me, warming up, it was neat, but again, there was so much into it, and you got to go here and there and this and that, and and it's just kind of like getting guys out of their rhythm a little bit, but that's whatever. That's life and adversity.
Yeah, one of the things I do remember about that game in Boston, I was at that game, and the Phillies had just lost to the Yankees in the World Series the year prior, and I remember the Boston fans started chanting, the Phillies suck, the Phillies suck. And then Phillies fans started chanting, the Red Sox suck. And then everyone started chanting, the Yankees suck. And I just remember that. And I'm like, hey, it's good that we can get along. But anyway, speaking with Riley Cote, looking at this Flyers team going forward, I know we had big expectations for what they could bring to Philadelphia throughout the course of the season. Do you still think that when they get everything right, they get everybody back, this is still one of the top teams, at least, one of the top teams in the NHL?
I think so. Yeah, I really do think so. Yeah, I think it's it's a tough league, and this year has been exceptionally tough for everyone. But I'm glad that they're kind of getting these kinks out early. Get the COVID out. Hopefully that's like the end of it. Losing a chunk of 6 guys at once. Get that out of the way. I know there's only say 2 games or so, but I really think that they're built. For success, whether they're going to be finishing, they're not going to finish the top of the league, but I think they can get back up to where they were, say a month ago. I think they're, set top of the division and fighting for that top spot. They got to stay healthy, obviously, but, guys are stepping up, I think, like Van Riemsdyk's a good example of that. I didn't expect his point production this year. So, I mean, to me, that's, some gravy. But that being said, we've lost some guys maybe not necessarily performing as high as they can, but again, going back to the goaltending, I think they really do have a good 1-2 punch. And I think maybe the defense, if we can, I know it's not that easy to do, but maybe add some veteran presence back there, something. I think they need maybe a little help back there, but no, I still think they're going to be extremely competitive the rest of the way. I think they got to find a way to crack the nut with Boston. And I think, even if you went 2-3 against Boston, I think you're tied or if not ahead of them. So pretty tight. It's pretty tight, but the Flyers are competitive for sure.
I think I said I was done asking you questions about Boston, but this just popped in my head when you mentioned it. How do you? I know the answer is just beat them, but
Yep.
how do you get a team out of your head? How do you put that behind you? How do you find the chink in the armor so that you can power past what the Bruins have done to you all year?
Well, I'm not sure we do in 2021, but back in the day when I was playing, I know what I would be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things. You just got to get uncomfortable, and you just got to, you know what I mean? You just got to get greasy. I think that's really what it comes down to. Not that I'm expecting anybody to go out there and fight, because I think that's probably not going to prove a ton. But get greasier. You know what I mean? It's like these guys have been scoring at will against you. It's like maybe it's finishing that extra check. Maybe it's driving that net extra hard. Maybe it's poking the bear a little bit, poke the goalie. I don't know. Maybe it's just like playing a little greasier, because when you're playing an opponent that's in your head and it's beating you 5 times, I mean, just try something else, just go that extra mile and just get it a little extra greasier. That's always what we've always talked about. You just got to dig in a little bit more, So the game's not going to get easier. It's going to be more challenging. So, accept the challenge and get greasy.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, let's get greasy, fellas. Let's get greasy. That's all you got to do. Last thing I want to ask you about here, you just mentioned defense a second ago here, and I know you just talked to one hell of a defenseman in Chris Therien from back in the day. What's Bundy been up to these days? What's going on? And I know he just joined you and Derek Stottlemyre on Nasty Knuckles as well.
Yeah, Bundy was an awesome guest, and he had an important message and an important announcement that he landed up dropping on our podcast yesterday, which was his new Limitless Recovery Center that just opened up yesterday in Fishtown. So he struggled with some substance abuse and pulled his life together, and not just pulled it together, but able to use kind of his platform to do good. And now he's helping people with addiction in the city of Philadelphia and doing some great things. So that was it was really nice to talk to Bundy about that. Normally it's a story, and then sometimes you got to be get back to the real world and and talk about real life stuff, and and that's what we did mostly on that podcast yesterday. But it was good. I think it needed to be done, and I'm happy for Bundy for sure.
Yeah, I would describe Chris Therien as one of the funniest people you could come across, one of the biggest sports fans you could come across as well, just in general. The guy's a huge sports fan. And he's one of those people, and maybe I just don't know him well enough, but he's one of those people when he is serious, you're kind of like waiting for the punchline. But in watching him kind of talk about everything, it's like, oh, wow, there's this whole other side that you knew was there, but you never really acknowledged. And he goes into depth about it, and it's amazing.
Yeah, no, Bundy has a way of delivering a message, and like you said, like you almost don't know when he's serious or not, because he's always screwing around. But Bundy is a really good guy. He's got a really good character about him. He just like makes light of a lot of different things, including himself. And I think we had to cut out a couple of stories where he's like, it's like where he's carving himself up. He's like, I'm trying to show the new Bundy, and not so much focus on the old one. But but that being said, he's making fun of himself and having fun with it. But yeah, certainly a huge sports fan, really good at, especially when you listen to him talk about hockey. He's really an honest and fair assessment of the breakdown of the game. So love listening to him talk.
Absolutely. Check out that podcast, of course, Nasty Knuckles podcast. It's a great one. You guys do a phenomenal job with that. And yeah, I like to call him, now I'll refer to the new Bundy as like Skinny Bundy. Like present day is like Skinny Bundy. And it's great. You guys do such an awesome job with that. And this episode with Chris Therien is definitely worth the view and worth the listen as well. Riley Cote, I can't thank you enough. Nasty Knuckles podcast. Make sure you check it out. Thanks for jumping on with us and talking some pucks, man.
Appreciate it, Mark.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Riley Cote joining us there on the Zatos Investments guest line. Before we get to Farzy in the field, and we're going to talk a little football with the good people of Philadelphia, I do want to tell you about some of our great sponsors like DraftKings. Yes, later in the program, I'm now 0-1 in my last one. And that's you're only good as your last bet. So maybe I have to take the night off. I don't know. But I do bet with DraftKings when I do bet. And my nice little run there of 11-1 in my last 11 or 12 games was going well for a while. Excuse me, 10-1 in my last 11 games was going well until I lost last night. But nonetheless, still have a good time betting with DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is giving all new players the chance to cash $100. That's right, $100 for new customers if you bet $1 on any basketball team to hit a three-pointer. That's it. That's all you got to do. Bet you can win $100 for just a basketball team to hit a three-pointer. So one three-pointer being hit by your chosen team turns $1 into $100. Does it sound like a no-brainer? Well, it's because it is no-brainer. Basketball, maybe that's not your sport. Maybe you can go hockey. They got plenty of daily odds on hockey, soccer, and so much more. DraftKings has actually paid out over $7 billion to its customers since 2012, so they know a thing or two about big pay days. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy to get your shot to turn $1 into $100 when you bet on any team to hit a three-pointer in any basketball game this week. Use promo code Farzy for new customers to get a shot at 100-1 odds on any basketball team to hit one three-pointer only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, new customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Winning pays out in 4 $25 free bets. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And you've heard me talking about these guys for the last month or so right now. Steak and Maine, fine dining in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Whether you dine in a more upscale steakhouse or casual bar and patio, you'll enjoy the highest quality prime meats, fresh seafood, world-class oyster bar, and freshly prepared sushi. I wonder if my man Tony Cavada, who runs the place, I wonder if that fine chef, I wonder if he's catching the seafood himself, because the man loves to go fishing. All that extensive wine list also to accompany great meals at Steak and Maine. Cavada Cellars Wines also provides some great wine pairings with that. Open daily for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch as well. Steak and Maine in Northeast Maryland, voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel. Check it out for yourself at steakandmaine.com for more information. We had a fun show announcement for you yesterday. We got another one for you today. Just want to reiterate this. Later on today, around noon today, I'm going to be on Reddit doing an Ask Me Anything, an AMA, if you will. Anything is fair game. Ask Me Anything, Eagles Reddit. You can check me out. It's simple, Marc Farzetta. That's my screen name. That's my username. That's where you can find me right there. That's my display name, whatever you want to call it. You can find me on there. You can ask me anything about the show, about my career, about my personal life. Everything's fair game. I'll tell you anything. So make sure you check me out. Doing an AMA today on Eagles Reddit. We can talk a lot about the Birds as well. We got some stuff we're about to get into with the Morning Rush. One huge story from the Morning Rush that I found just particularly interesting. So I'll be on Eagles Reddit a little bit later today, talking to all you fine people about the Birds, about me. Ask me anything, and I will entertain your curiosities. You know what? Yeah, and I feel like this is only right, considering one of the most popular bits from the show, and really one of the most popular bits from my career, is Farzy in the field. And if I go out and ask you people fine questions, yeah, go ahead and ask me some questions. Now, this particular Farzy in the field is based on a simple question. Is Jalen Hurts Mr. Right or Mr. Right now? So I went out to Rittenhouse Square yesterday to ask the good people of Philadelphia whether or not they felt the Eagles are looking at Jalen Hurts as Mr. Right or Mr. Right now. And that's Farzy in the field, brought to you by our great friends at FanUp. Download the FanUp app and have, be a baller with FanUp. Here is, ladies and gentlemen, this week's edition of Farzy in the field. Are the Eagles looking at Jalen Hurts as Mr. Right or Mr. Right now?
He's just Mr. Right now. You gotta say that.
Definitely Mr. Right now.
I would say Mr. Right now.
We'll hope for the best. Right now is good enough. I'll take it.
I just feel like he's not up to the standards that a normal quarterback should be. There's a lot of learning that needs to be had. They have a lot of opportunity to make a different draft picks or selections.
I'm so glad Wentz is going. That's the best thing I seen on the news that day. I couldn't believe it.
I like it.
I knew it, though.
See, I like your honesty. Let me just tell you that. I love your honesty.
But I bleed green. Don't forget that, though.
Okay. Do you think that the Eagles are looking at Jalen Hurts as Mr. Right or Mr. Right now?
Yeah, I think he's Mr. Right. I mean, Jalen's young, he's confident, and I think the team is looking for a guy to invest in the future. Theodore here is a little scared of the camera, but we're both pretty confident in Jalen.
Okay.
I think he is going to be a starter this upcoming season, but he's still a question mark. He's got the talent and all that, but I don't know, he's got a lot to prove yet, and they got to put the right pieces around him, obviously.
Right now, we need him. The Eagles need the best on the line. And, we need to win something, get this thing back on the ball.
What was the cat's name? Theodore. I am sorry, Theodore. How often does Theodore get out to be walked in Rittenhouse Square?
Yeah, I take him out here every day. So if you ever want to meet Theodore, come out to Rittenhouse, and he's usually out here. And I'm the guy with the Eagles hat on, feeling confident about Jalen.
You're the guy. So far, he's the one guy. Awesome. Thanks, man.
Sounds good.
I think just getting to see a guy walk his cat was worth doing this bit in Rittenhouse Square. Yeah, that's some good times right there. Now, the gentleman with the cat, let's just talk about this for a second. Random question, and I'm going to get to our social media check-in here. So anyone watching on YouTube, I'm following the comments right now. I'm going to get to you fine people in just a minute. Do you walk your cat? If you have a cat, do you walk your cat? My wife has 2 cats. You might have heard me talk about this before. I don't have any cats. I have cat roommates. The cats are my wife's cats. I don't mistreat the cats. They're fine animals. I love them, but I just enjoy animals that respect each other's space and my space as well. But anyway, I don't walk the cats. I've never seen my wife walk her cat. I don't know why people walk a cat. I know some cats are outdoor cats, and maybe now they're in the city, so they take them for a walk. I don't know. I thought at first that this gentleman had a dog that was maybe ill because I saw him wearing the Eagles hat, and I said, I don't want to bother him if he's got to carry this cat or carry this dog around. I looked from afar. That's my excuse. It was afar. I couldn't tell it was a cat. And then I circled the park one more time, and lo and behold, this guy's walking his cat, and he's got the Eagles hat on. So I'm like, okay, let me ask him if he'll talk to me. So I asked him the question. He's like, oh, yeah, sure, a big Eagles fan. Yeah, picks up his little cat, Theodore, who you met, an adorable-looking cat, and he answers the questions, and I felt bad for scaring the hell out of the cat, apparently. But I every once in a blue moon, I see people walk a cat. How often do you see people walk a cat? And I got to ask you, cat people, is it normal to walk a cat? Should I tell my wife she needs to take her cats out for a walk? I don't know the answer to that. So if you guys could provide that answer for me, I'd be in your debt. That, of course, was Farzy the Field, brought to you by our great friends at FanUp. Going to be doing more stuff with FanUp in the coming weeks, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Now it is time for our social media check-in, brought to you by our good friends at Steak in Maine. Going to recap some stuff from earlier in the show, according to these comments. Sean says, good morning. Well, good morning. Inside the Birds, a little flexing. What's up, Inside the Birds? Our friends at Inside the Birds. Sports Talk with Broads. Broads, my man. What's happening, brother? Thanks for checking in and saying good morning, and let's go. Jacob Creed is just laughing. I'm glad that you're laughing. I'm happy that you're happy. He's also saying, dude, Howie doesn't need a quarterback. Earlier in the show, I was talking about bringing in another quarterback. Howie doesn't need a quarterback to save his job. He just can't delete the phone with whatever dirt he has on Lori. Fair point. Fair point. We're going with the yeah, I'm with you. I see what you're saying. Kevin Smith saying that the Eagles are addicted to quarterbacks. You're not far off. After all, this is a quarterback factory. How could we forget? Best 60 minutes the Flyers have played all season. Excited to see how they progress when they're back to full strength. That's from Colin Berger. Colin, I'm with you. Brett Geiger agrees with that comment that they need to make sure they're focusing in on the same 60 minutes that they played last night. Find a way to win. J.D. Harrison, he's saying that about the Flyers, so that's good. Good to see Riley. Ronald Graber is saying that. Good to see Riley Cote on the show. Riley's great. Riley's awesome. Really enjoy talking to Riley. If you would have told 24-year-old Flyer fan Marc Farzetta that he would get to know Riley Cote just a little bit, and Riley Cote's demeanor was one of the most, I'll use this word, chillaxed dudes that you could ever come across, I would have been like, you crazy. But no, Riley Cote, chillax. Like, my buddy Joe, who's the biggest Flyer fan I know, lives out in Pittsburgh now, unfortunately. Married a girl from out there. But anyway, he lives out in Pittsburgh. Lovely lady. And 2 beautiful children. And I was texting with him, and he liked Riley Cote being on the show a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, dude, you wouldn't believe it. He is like the most chill dude you could ever meet. That fighter, that enforcer that we knew for so many years in the NHL, so many years with the Flyers, he's like the calmest dude you could ever come across. Just awesome. So, yeah, always really enjoy speaking to Riley Cote. Kevin Morrissey's hitting us up saying, no, I don't walk my cat because I'm normal. Okay, I buy it. Colin checking back in. Walking a cat is... This guy was the nicest guy you could have talked to. And he even hit me up on Instagram and said, hey, I believe you interviewed me in the park. You know, I hope this is you. Thanks for interviewing me in the park. No problem. Colin saying walking a cat is psychopath behavior. And you know what? I'm not here to judge. I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn, people. Thank you to that man for letting me interview him. And thank you to all your fine comments here on our social media check-in, brought to you by our good friends at Steak and Maine. Now let's move on to our morning rush, a bit of an abbreviated one because it's really one subject. But I found this fascinating. And I don't want to make this seem like I'm defending Howie Roseman. So go ahead and get ready to read into whatever I'm about to say as read into it as defending Howie Roseman. But our morning rush is brought to you by our friends at Sky Motor Cars and SkyMotorCars.com. Saw this interesting tidbit from our friend Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports Philadelphia. I want to make sure I get this right here. Howie Roseman did a pretty smart thing with Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. I don't know if the proper technical way to explain this, but basically, to put it in perspective, before June 1st, the Eagles needed to do something with Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, and this was going into last year. So they restructured the contracts, particularly of Alshon Jeffrey and actually Malik Jackson. But on the two receivers, by restructuring the deals, Howie Roseman prepped Alshon Jeffrey and Malik Jackson, for he prepped their deals so that they're more easily released with less of a cap hit, knowing the cap problem they were going to have going into this year. So I'll say this. When you go and rip Howie Roseman, as I have done many times and will continue to do most likely, and I'll wait for the draft time to do a lot of that, keep this in mind. The one compliment Chip Kelly even was willing to give Howie Roseman was that he's a good cap guy. And that's where Howie really made his bones in the NFL and worked his way up to the spot that he's in now. So if there's anything that Howie Roseman should be able to do to help alleviate the Eagles of a lot of problems going into next year, it's the financial issues. It's the $47 million of being over the cap that he's going to have to rework and restructure. Well, with Malik Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, certainly in releasing Deshaun Jackson, they helped themselves with that. But with Malik Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, here's what Howie Roseman was able to do. The initial base salary going into this season, this upcoming season, 2021, was a little under $13 million. Now, after reworking and then releasing Alshon Jeffrey, it was down to $2 million. The cap savings he has is over $10 million. $10 million right now, just for the Alshon Jeffrey reworking going into last year, and now obviously going to release him when the new league year starts. Then for Malik Jackson, the cap savings he made with reworking that deal and most likely then releasing him goes down to $8 million. So it's an $8 million differential going from the initial base salary of $9 million, now working that down to about $2 million. How about that? That's what Howie Roseman's supposed to be good at. So when people talk about the cap hell, and we've mentioned it on the show, when people talk about the cap hell that the Eagles are going into when the new league year starts, or trying to get ready for when the new league year starts, if they have confidence in with Howie Roseman and going into next year, it's the cap. I am not worried about the cap because Howie is a wizard when it comes to the cap. I have no issue with that. The bigger issue I have, it comes to the draft. And that's why, if you're asking me what the Eagles are most likely going to do, it's something that we don't want to hear, but it's most likely. I think they're actually going to trade back in this draft. And I know that sucks. I know that's not exciting. But think about all the other problems this Eagles team has. Think about the guys that aren't going to be here next year. Zach Ertz, most notably, who I'm all but convinced is not going to be here. I am convinced he's not going to be here. I'll just say that. You're going to have to get another tight end. They ran a lot of 12 personnel out in Indianapolis with Frank Reich's offense, and obviously you're going to have a lot of that with Nick Sirianni, so they're probably going to draft another tight end in this draft if they don't bring in a veteran. But they're going to have a lot of issues that they're going to have to solve with younger guys because of the cap spot that they're in right now, and I think that's going to be part of Howie's plan, because you can't just do that by waving that magic wand I just alluded to that Howie Roseman has when it comes to the cap. No, it's also going to have to come in releasing players that most likely that you're going to want to stick around here, players that we become attached to, players that we really like. And as much as I don't want to see Brandon Graham go elsewhere, that's going to be an issue that Howie Roseman most likely is going to have to resolve by either releasing or trading Brandon Graham. If you're looking at another situation, the other situation is the draft and trading back and getting more picks, and knowing, again, as I said earlier in the show, Howie Roseman's going to have to hit on a lot of these draft picks to save his job, barring the barring the numbers that or the excuse me the data on his cell phone that he has on Jeffrey Lurie, allegedly, according to our commenter. Barring all that, what Howie has to do is hit on these picks. And the only way he's going to do that is as if he has as many as humanly possible. One more thing I do want to revisit. I know the name you are going to be seeing a lot in terms of rumors or being at least tied to the Philadelphia team. Jake Odorizzi, who I mentioned earlier, wanted to tell you about him. Definitely a guy that I want on the Phillies in that rotation. What I meant to tell you earlier, and I skipped over it, unfortunately, was just a little bit of a scouting report on him. I think most people know, not last year, but the year before, he was an all-star, made his first and only all-star team as a member of the Minnesota Twins, had, I believe, a 15-win season. It was great to see that, sub-4 ERA in the American League. And something else was, I was just going over and just rewatching some of his stuff. I always forget about guys, what their fastball tops out at. He's got about a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, so certainly not anything worth bragging about. But, man, life on that fastball. That ball moves as it's coming into the plate. It is a nice and for a 93-mile-per-hour fastball, it's got life on it. All right, that's how Aaron Nola survived the first couple of years of his career by only having a 93-mile-per-hour fastball. He had movement on that, and then he sets it up with a nice 82-mile-per-hour changeup as well. So the guy's got some goods in the starting rotation. He's somebody that I'm hoping the Phillies are able to acquire. And again, if that happens, you're most likely moving Zach Eflin back in the rotation to the 4 spot. And this is what's interesting about Zach Eflin real quick. There's been a couple of articles already written about Zach Eflin about how he's the guy the Phillies are pegging to be the pleasant surprise for the year. Build off what he did last year, take it to that next level, and maybe he's a guy that, sure might be a 4 starter in this rotation when you have a guy like Odorizzi if you do get him, or you already have guys like Zach Wheeler, and then you obviously have Aaron Nola. If that's the case, let's party. Let's get after it with a guy like that as your 4 starter. If Zach Eflin's able to have that big step forward, I'm all for it. Mac is telling me I'd get a rabies shot, Mark, to be careful. I assume that has to do with the cat. I think the cat's fine. Anyway, so that was our morning rush brought to you by our friends at Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. All right. This is the moment of the show I've been dreading. I've been absolutely dreading this moment. I lost last night. I bet the Celtics -2 going up against the Atlanta Hawks team. Then Trae Young, big bets brought to you by DraftKings, of course. Then Trae Young decided to go off, and Danilo Gallinari decided to go off as well. I believe Danilo had 38 points last night, and Trae Young had 33 points last night, and I think between the two of them, I think it's an NBA record. They had 997 three-pointers made, so that's pretty good for a game. They went off last night, especially from 3, and they gave the Celtics a loss, and the Celtics are now 2 games under 500, if I'm not mistaken, which in that I enjoy, but I don't enjoy it at my expense because I lost my bet. So I'm going to go ahead and take tonight off. I'm going to try to cool off for a second, and I'm going to try to bounce back with another nice 10 and at least 10 and 1 run for you again, because I want to make you money. I lost money last night, and if you bet with me, you lost money too. My apologies. I most humbly apologize, and I want to get back on that winning track as fast, as soon as humanly possible. Clear my head for the night. But if you do bet tonight, make sure you bet with DraftKings. All sorts of great stuff that you could bet with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app in the App Store, America's top-rated sportsbook app. That's the show, everybody. Oh, wait, not the cat I'm worried about? It's the guy who was walking the cat. Oh, well, it's his cat. I think he knows what's what. That's a sweet cat. By the way, I also had to do a lot of editing with this week's Farzy in the Field, especially with the construction worker, T, or the road worker, T, who was happy Carson Wentz was gone. I'm not that good at editing just yet, but hopefully I can clean up those beeps and let you hear some of the stuff a little bit later on in as the show progresses. We'll just say that. But thanks for watching this show. My thanks to Riley Cote for joining us. My thanks to Jim Hyden for producing the program. This is the Farzy Show. It is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be talking about a nice 76ers victory tonight. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you tomorrow here on the Farzy Show.